Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this.
But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike, and today's peek behind the amber curtain is with our foundation coach / bit of everything, Harry. We're going to catch up with Harry since he was last on the show and he was wide-eyed, full of enthusiasm of the new job. And then we're going to find out what it was really like for the last year or so. Don't forget the engagement. We love hearing from you. Lots of likes, tweets, and all the rest of it on all the socials. I really do enjoy it, and it does help spread the word so you don't have to suffer alone. Your friends can suffer too. Harry, thank you for coming in to have a chat with us and keep us updated about Foundation. Did you like the name? I put this as a chat of Harry and the Foundation.
Harry and the Foundation.
It was like the Foundations.
60s rock.
Exactly. So you're going to kind of give us a little chat about different things. I'm sure there are a lot of people wondering what now goes on, especially with that terrible relegation word and how things are affected there. Obviously, we might not have the full picture yet, so I'm not forcing you to give answers. If you don't know it, don't know it. But it's just also about the work you do and making sure people know, because like I said before, I love all the little things we see about players going off to do things, but it's not just about the hospital visits. There's loads of other bits going on. So for anyone who missed the last one, just can you sort of remind us who you are and what you kind of do?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question because, up until, probably a month after I'd been working for the club, I knew what we did, but I didn't really understand what we did. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people. So in short, a foundation or a club community operation is the charitable and community side of a football club. Everyone in the EFL and the Premier League has to have one, and almost all National League teams have them, and a few less as we go down. Their job is quite literally to engage with, service, and just be a constant part of the community. So that can be in a range of ways, which I'll obviously go through as we go through. But my job is to sort of pull all of that together, from finding opportunities and dealing with requests that we get from certain groups and people, to actually carrying out the sessions and meeting the people and just sort of being everywhere that I possibly can. So yeah, that in short is what the foundation does. And then I'm sure you've probably got some pressing questions from
you did forget the one of the most important jobs is being a taxi for me when I had to do that little video. And
yeah, and there is
we've never met.
There's a few people who I'll mention that help with the foundation, and it just seems like it's a prerequisite that you can't drive, so I have to do all of the driving always.
It's amazing. I think the first time we met was, I'll come out of the station, I'll be in a car in the car park.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to go tapping on windows going, hi, how are you?
Yeah, quite.
But you've kind of touched on it, but the foundation has a lot of different fingers in different pies, for want of a better expression. I mean, when I did that little video, we were looking at walking football, some of the what used to be called the Wildcats. I know it's not called that anymore. The girls football at goals.
Yeah.
Then there was the girls section and disability section. So there was all sorts of different bits that it's involved in. But can you kind of give us? You're gonna be here all night. Give us another idea of kind of like what other things there are. I know they're the headlines.
Yeah,
but...
so you're bang on there. Even pre the foundation being set up, there was already a girls section. So that's all under 18 teams. Steve, that's headed up by David Ajayo now, but previously Mark Back, who did a tremendous job. You've got PCSO Steve King and the disability teams. Fred Varnell, who does the walking football, and the Wildcats, which is done by Jamie De Cruz on a Monday night at goals. So that was the sort of core. Those have been going for a long time. They all do very, very well, and they don't completely take care of themselves, but they just sort of run along in the background. What we, as employees of the Foundation, which is Bobby Childs and I, is really starting to look where we can be most beneficial in the community. And very quickly, we identified that was getting girls and women into football, people with additional needs and disabilities, and those that are either underrepresented or underserviced, certainly, maybe down to financial or where they live, and really sort of focusing on those underprivileged areas, if you like. So instantly we set out, and you'll have to bear with me now, Mike, because I'm going to go into a right monologue.
That's fine.
And we looked at girls' schools. So I reached out to all of the local secondary girls' schools, heard back from Harris Academy in Merton, and basically the head of PE there said, we've got all of these girls that are starting to watch football and play a little bit here and there, and they're really touching on it, but none of them are going out to join teams. So they're playing for an hour on a Tuesday night, I think it is, in with the boys, and then that's all they're getting. So we went in, and basically we do weekly sessions there, have done since October, every Tuesday. A group of girls, we started with about 6, now we run at sort of mid-20s. And those girls now, as part of that, I talk to them about different avenues, whether it's our girls teams or little leagues or all of the sort of different opportunities that are around. So we do that at Harris, St Philomena's in Carshalton, and Wallington Girls School at the moment. But, fingers crossed, we'll add some more to that. That's just an after-school club, 30 till 4:30 sort of every day. Next one then was, SEN schools. So I have a sort of low-level understanding of SEN schools because my son goes to one. But we started to just have initial chats with them about what we could do, how we can help, where's the most value again that we can add to just keep these children feeling like they're part of the club, like they're part of what we're doing. So we do a weekly session at Carew Manor, which is in Beddington Park. Again, Jamie De Cruz manages that one for us. And then sort of 3 or 4 schools now we've started to work on, or we're having them in for workshops. So effectively what we're doing is talking to them about ways in which you can work in football and be involved in football every day without being a professional footballer. Because as everybody and most of us, we all at some point have had to come to that realization that we're probably not going to make it. Mine was really no, I'm joking. Mine was a long time ago. But yeah, so there's a great book written by Dan Friedman, who's the same guy that wrote the Jamie Johnson books. And it's called 50 Ways into Football. And within that, they interview the barber and the person that does the podcast and the pilot and, the foundation heads and all of these different things we bring the children. I go to the school first to make them comfortable, and then we bring them to a ground. They have a tour, we have a kickabout in the fan zone. They interview the players and ask them, basically who's better, Messi or Ronaldo, because that's the only question they ever want to ask. And just really look at, we're not giving exact directions, but we're saying to them, oh, well, if you like, cooking, why don't you look at becoming a chef? The players have chefs, and it's those sort of bits, and just trying to do as much as we can. So, there's a group of schools sort of that run from here to Tadworth that we work with, and we're just about to start with the one by Goals in North Cheam, where the social club is.
Excellent.
So that's where are we? That's SEN.
Well, can you just stop telling them that they can get into football by podcast, because we don't want any more podcasts about Sutton United, because then I won't be the best anymore.
The school that we've spoken to most recently, that's what their initial contact was about. Can we interview players and staff because the kids are doing a course, I can't remember what it is, but basically they're going to teach them how to make a podcast. And a couple of them said, we'll do one on Sutton United. So obviously I've told them that there's only space.
Yeah,
unfortunately, we'd love to help you, but we're not going to because of money.
There's a bar. It's extremely low. It's extremely low, kids. You don't have to do much.
Yeah, I think they said they were working on catchy jingles. That's what they. No.
Don't start. Right. Listen, I've got this little yoke, and it's got like all sorts of little sound effect buttons.
Yeah.
And I can't get it to work, and I'm gutted. I'm just like, oh man. One day I'll get this to work, and there will be even more jingles. But anyway, sorry, we've done the girls, we've done the SEN.
SEN. And then the areas. So we have started to. It's quite hard work, which I'll get into, but we're delivering sessions free. Turn up, no, regular booking. The kids just turn up, and we're doing those on the estates that surround us. So Monday nights we're in Roundshaw, Thursday nights we're in Collingwood, and then I'll get onto what we're doing over the summer. But next year I'd like to have one evening we're in each one. That's all abilities, just fun, football, meeting new friends. I think that's age. It's year 6 to year 9. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get them from stop messing around outside the shops at Roundshaw, and that I literally go to the shops and tell them stop messing around out here, come in here and play football. And that's another one. So that started again with 4 or 5, and then on Monday night we had 25 in the Phoenix Centre in half a hall. So for those of you that have ever tried to run a session with 25 kids in half a sports hall, it's hard work. But yeah, so there are sort of main target areas at the moment. You're quite right. There's loads of different things that go on, but it's important that those 3 areas remain at the the sort of focus of what we're trying to do, because we do some, we go to the prison, Bobby and I, to hide down, because again they contacted us and said some of the inmates that are sort of over 50 are getting no exercise because they're too intimidated to go to the gym, because there's a lot of young people in there, and they don't want to play football because they can't keep up. What could you do? So we go there now. We do walking football.
All right.
And to be honest with you, it's so much fun. But we only go sort of every few months, just because of time constraints. But it really lifts them, and I think they're doing some sort of learning around it as well. But it's there's an awful lot that goes on. But yeah, at the core of it, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, so I'm going to put my little mercenary hat on for a second, because whilst you're saying we do this for free, we do that for free, we do the other for free, it's not free. Someone pays for this. We have to book pitches, book all this stuff. So how do we get the funding for it, and especially has that been affected by relegation? Again, you might not have all the answers, but essentially, how do we fund all these things?
Yeah, I probably haven't got all the answers, but I've got a lot of them because it's almost exclusively what we've talked about for the last 6-7 weeks. And you're bang on that these sessions they're free to attend, but actually they're quite costly, and there isn't a discount anywhere. You know, the Phoenix Centre on a Monday, which is one of our best sessions, costs us a fortune. You know, and that's without time, my time, equipment. There's some people that sort of help us out. Stephen Roach comes and helps me with those sessions. You know, so the short of it is that all of the money, all of it comes from grants and lots of different sort of donations and money pots that we can find, and Bobby spends almost all of his time doing that, applying for grants, filling out, you know, 55-page application forms for £300 worth of funding. It's really, 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 really intensive sort of paperwork. So there are lots of people, Barclays Bank, the Mayor of London, you know, that there are pots that come, and it comes in, you know, a few £1,000 at a time. But our core funding up until the end of the season came from the EFL Trust. That was enough to cover basically all of our running costs, you know, salaries and all of the sort of different bits that goes in. But unfortunately, there is no parachute payment for the foundation part. So we went sort of overnight. We were about 58,000 pounds short of where we would usually be, which was obviously quite a hit.
Yeah.
And that, you know, yes, you know, although we remained optimistic to the end of the MK Dons match, thankfully, you know, signs were showing and we sort of managed to prepare. But it does mean that's why it was so important, to hone on these specific areas, that we're not stretching ourselves, we're not doing things that cost us tremendously, because we'd love to do everything that everybody ever asked for, but it's not an endless pot of money. And thankfully, you know, there's some people that are involved with the foundation that are very good with that. And yeah, it's just grant application after grant application after grant application after grant application, and that really is how it goes. Some are very specific. You know, sometimes we'll see that there's, you know, some funding available for example, we're looking at walking football at the moment for those that suffer from Parkinson's. So we're in the process of talking to Parkinson's UK, who will again give us some money to get going, but we would love to offer this session for free. But the funding's a one-time only.
Yeah.
So once your funding runs out, then you're at a minus again. So I went up to Arsenal last week to see how they do it in their, you know, Mickey Mouse facilities that they've got up there, and it is great. But that's the perfect example. So we're always on the lookout for things, and we're trying to do everything that we can. But it relies really, really heavily on what funding is available, and not just that, but how easy it is to get. It's important though to note that the girls section, the disability section, and the walking football and the girls development on a Monday, they sort of keep themselves. Don't get me wrong, it's to the wire, but you know, but they
essentially self-fund.
Yeah, and they have sponsorships and whatnot. So the money that we search for is for core, you know, for the stuff that we're trying to do. Because I would love to do sessions all day, every day, in every school, but it's just not. It's
Yeah.
just not feasible.
Yeah. I know Wigan had something. What they used to do is they used to set up a direct debit, and there were certain amounts you could choose, and they had 3 or 4 areas of the club, and they said basically your direct debit of, let's say, £10, you could have it all go to one part or split it up between different parts. You just tick to where it would go. So is there any? I don't even know if there's any. I mean, they used to get rewards like in the club shop. They get discounts and stuff as well. So is there any scope of bringing that in house to say, is there anything that we could do as fans to be contributing?
Yeah, there's always plenty to be done, but at the same time, you know, I'm sure Bobby will say this. For me, it's a little bit counterintuitive that I like the idea that we're out there trying to help. People are already, you know, I want people to spend their money in the ground on tickets and be there, because the better that the club does, the better that we will do naturally. So although it's a lovely gesture, you know, I think it's important that we work on, and you know, we have had a quite a large amount of funding come in, which has effectively led to, you know, it pays my salary in short, because for those that don't know, I was working you know, basically full time on a very part-time salary to start with, because I was supposed to work part-time and I loved it so much I just never went home. But yeah, so that's from the Premier League Trust. That's for the Fans Fund initiative, which ties in with what we're doing, and also will hopefully, when I get into it, give everybody a sort of plan, an idea of what we're doing, and that's where we need people's help. But yeah, the funding is the funding. You know, I speak to people from lots of different clubs, from, you know, Arsenal to, you know, that horrible lot in Wimbledon, and I'm joking, their foundation staff are lovely. It's just the other lot. But they're all, regardless of how big the club is, how wealthy the club is, everybody's in the same struggle. Everybody's still trying to find money the best they can, and there are certain things that we do charge for. So walking footballers, they pay £5 a week, which basically covers the cost of the pitch. Excuse me, covers the cost of the pitch, and then a little bit extra for coach travel if they need it, or balls, or, you know, whatever. And then on a Friday morning, from 10:30 to 11:30, I do under 3s football. So last week we had 22 under 3s.
It's like herding cats. How can you be under 3s?
It's you know, I like to think that I work pretty hard, but that hour on a Friday morning is the hardest hour. But it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like it's great fun, and it's all about like the motor skills and how the children are learning to, you know, because it's obviously everybody expects their 2-year-old to be, you know, to come in, do one session, and then I ring Steve Morrison and he says,
sign up.
But actually shouting kick it at them all the time isn't as productive as teaching them to recognize, this is my foot that 6 months ago I couldn't actually walk on. And it's so much fun. And the parents pay for that one. I think mainly just to keep
an hour.
But it's great. You know, it's great fun. So there are small bits the Wildcats pay, you know, that do. But, you know, again, we'd love to do it all for free. So I'd say where people can help in regards to funding is there's lots of companies out there that have a charitable arm. Lord's Foundation, Lord's Building Merchants, they have a foundation which have given us some money over the time. Barclays Bank, you know, all of these companies out there, ask them if they do it, and put them in contact with us. And then, you know, it can be specific. They can say, you know, this money is for the girls, and we'll do whatever we can. But that's a good one for people to look into if they can.
Yeah, in fairness, actually, the guy who does the Gillingham podcast, he'd actually put something up the other week where I think it might have been their foundation as well, but he'd seen a message about they need funding, and he sort of went to his employers, and they've signed up to this huge kind of deal that he was like, I was not expecting that at all. The employers were like,
it's very tax efficient.
Yeah, so he was quite pleased. So yeah, things like that, you could always ask your employers, or ask Harry how to ask your employers, or Bobby.
Yeah, or just even if you just send them our way, like it's anything and everything helps, from a few £100 to thousands. It all goes into doing what we're doing.
Okay, so we'll move away from that. Just can you? You've touched on some of these already. We may revisit you hanging around the shops, talking to kids about come follow me, come into my van and come play football. But I suspect maybe not a recorded conversation there. But can you? It's hard because you've been full on. You've been part time, and then you've been like, hang on, this is way more than part time. This is way more than full time. Same as most other people. I mean, you kind of should have known what you were getting into because you've been a Sutton fan for a long time. So you should have known what you were getting into.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah.
But can you have you had a chance to stop and look back and go, that's one of the ideas I've implemented. I'm really proud of that one. And just your little go-to, your little shining star of something that's a real good thing to do.
Yeah, there's lots. And, it's important to remember, I am living, the dream, as far as from where I am. I work full-time at a football club, professional football club that I also support, and is 15 minutes from my house. And not just that, but I don't have any of the pressure. It's just all out with local people. It is a great job. It can be tiring at times, but it's not a bad thing to be doing for a living, believe me. In terms of my personal impact, well, to be honest, almost every session that we're running away from those sort of 5 or 6 have only come about since I've been there. Because also we have to, I have to with Bobby, find the place to do it, book it, check it, risk assess it, create the poster, flog the poster, so it isn't that I just turn up and there's, 20 kids there. It takes a long time. And I appreciate that the phrasing when finding children outside the shop probably isn't great, but actually, a lot of it is physically having to say, there's a football session on in there, and I do wear a kit every day, and people recognise it, and they're never shy of telling me these kids how magnificent they are at football. So it's an easy one to say, all right, come on then, show me.
Let's see.
But the junior J's, which is the little ones on a Friday, as I say, I particularly enjoy. But it's just all great. The girls after school, to have started the season with these sort of timid girls who didn't know where to go or what to do, are now coming in and saying, I trialled here and I trialled there, and they said no, but it doesn't matter because next week I'm going, and it's those bits that you've seen build. And I've been lucky in the sense that it all started from when I started, so I've seen them from their infancy to sort of where they are, and a lot of it, has been a really hard slog. And Bobby and some of those on the board of trustees for the foundation are working tremendously hard to get them there. So yeah, it's like you say, I should have probably known that it was going to be more work, and I'd be doing like some just peculiar things that quite often say to Bobby, like, I'm not sure if this is a foundation. I'm not sure if weeding is a foundation job. But you know, it's a great place, and it's
Yeah.
you know, it's a great thing to be a part of.
Right. So you've mentioned various different bits you do on different days, but if there is such a thing, what does a typical week look like for you? So just your general week in your work.
Okay, so cool. A typical week. So Monday mornings, I'm also studying at the moment for a qualification in sports coaching. So that's 6 or 7 hours a week of extra work. But so I have that first thing on a Monday. Bobby and I meet, set our objectives for the week. You know, and the sort of middle of the day is made up of most days is made up of posters and emails and grant applications and all that sort of things. But Monday at 3:30, I'm at St. Philomena's. That's till 4:30. Then straight after, I go to Wallington, which is the Phoenix Centre. Come back, do a little bit of coursework. Tuesday, assuming that we've not got anything else, but quite often I would do one of those SEN school visits on a Tuesday, because that's usually quite a good day. Tuesday after school, I'm at Harris Academy, Merton. Wednesday's walking football in the morning, and then pre what's going on with where they're training at the moment. They trained a long way away, and they only had Wednesday off. So anything that involved a player would always happen on a Wednesday. So that, I mean, there's been so many different things, but pretty much every Wednesday we'd be doing some sort of player engagement, whether that's 120 kids from Cheamfields doing a mathematics day at the ground to, you know, popping out to visit somebody for an hour or so. So that would be a Wednesday. Thursdays, I do Wallington girls after school, then straight from there to Collingwood, and then from there we were doing a youth club just to help them get going in the Phoenix Centre on Roundshaw again. So that would be until, I don't know, sort of 7 o'clock. Friday mornings is Junior Jays and the 25 youngsters. Then I need a sort of like 2 hour sort of peace and quiet where just, you know, I can't really do anything. And then Friday afternoon is Friday afternoon. So, you know, whatever anybody needs. So, you know, the main part of the day, there's a surprising amount of admin that goes on here. Lots of emails, you know, you're trying to manage what you can, plus coursework, plus grant applications, plus everything like that. Saturdays is a match day, so I get there early, do the fan zone, take it down at half time, go back in, and you're just sort of being around. Sundays, usually I would take off, but I've also become the welfare officer for the girls section because I didn't do enough already, and obviously they play on a Sunday, so I'll go to watch their games. So it's pretty busy, yeah. And not just that, but so the last 3 weeks I've been doing back-to-back school fairs. So that's two school fates every Saturday, just back-to-back, just doing penalty shootouts and goodness knows what else. So, but you know, again, it's do you know, like it. My wife would be the first to tell you, like, stop moaning. You're going to play football for like an hour. But there's, you know, my sessions are planned, and you know, there's lots of admin to it, but thankfully there's so many sessions and they're so fun that the time flies.
Yeah. So curveball question. Now you've done it for a year, how has your watching the game experience changed?
That's a really good question, actually. And we've got a young lad doing work experience with us at the moment, and he asked me earlier, do you still feel like you're a fan? Right, which is quite a deep question from a 14-year-old on work experience, but he'd obviously been sitting on it. How has it changed my view of the game? Not too much, to be honest with you. stresses at the last season
Yeah.
towards the back end was tough because there was a lot of uncertainty as to what was going to happen. So it made the not pressure, but it made the losses a little bit more intense and worrying, you know. Whereas I've always been the sort of person before that we lose, I sulk a little bit, I get home and I'm over it. But they sort of lingered because you're back in on Monday morning and you've got to sort of relive it over and over again. But, you know, at the same time, now I get to see all of the hard work, you know, and the sort of dedication that everybody's putting in all the time, which actually makes it even more special because, you know, I see the Tuesday crew and I see Matthew and Jack in the office and, you know, Clive and all of these people, Tim especially, you know, and how hard everybody's working. So when you do get a result, you know, and, you know, I've been fortunate enough that I do spend a little bit of time with the players, it makes it. So it's just maybe intensified both ends, and hopefully we're about to go into an undefeated season.
But things like, you know, when people are getting on players' backs. So let's go with a player that we've got left and who everyone currently loves. So Josh, earlier in the season, he wasn't doing what we felt he was able to do for whatever reason. Obviously, we don't know what he was told about. Because you know the player and he's a really nice guy. I'm not saying any of the other players aren't nice guys, but he's a really nice guy. And you're hearing people give him grief. Do you ever feel like, no, please let me tell you how hard he's working?
Yeah, that is a massive part of it. And actually, I won't tell you because I don't want to out the person. But I was at an away game, and Josh wasn't having a great game, and actually neither was Harry Smith, right? They weren't having a great game. To be honest with you, let's be honest, there weren't that many great games.
Yeah, you're not narrowing it down to which game this was, to be honest.
Yeah, at the moment, all of them. And a sort of group of fans behind me really started to sort of get a little bit personal. And actually what they didn't realise that on the seats next to them were Josh Coley and Harry Smith's wife and their children. Which, you know, it just isn't nice. And I understand that there are frustrations attached to football, and I understand that it can be really, really tough when you're sitting in the stands. But yes, I never liked that people could get that personal or irate about football. But yeah, it's tougher when you've met them and you know them and you know their wives and you can see in their face, their children's face, because they know what you're saying. And not just that, but that for me, that's just not the club that we are. It's never been that sort of club. We're very fortunate, you know, and have especially been very fortunate that the players would come to the bar and they will always stop for a chat and remember you by name. And, you know, even just as a fan, we know that. And they're great with the kids. And it is a shame that people can sort of forget that for 90 minutes and say some awful things. But, yeah, you know, it's an education piece and we'll get there. But, you know, from what I've only had brief encounters with the new cohort, and they seem great, to be honest with you. Really, really nice. Really, really nice guys. So hopefully no one will have anything bad to say about them.
Well, yeah, I only picked on Josh because, as I say, he was getting at the start.
Yeah, and Josh will know, and I'm sure that he was, you know, unfortunately for some reason sort of took the blame. For it all.
Turn it around a lot. It's because he's one of the ones who's nearest to us. That's what it is. The winners tend to get it because they're closer. But he turned it around, so that's why I'm happy to use him as an example. So wrapping up in a minute, I'll let you go because you do like 4 hours extra a day. How? I mean, I think I can only answer this, but if someone's listening and they're a local business or national business, how can they get involved? Is it just literally drop you guys an email, or how would you like individuals or businesses to get involved to support?
Yeah, they can always drop me an email, email anybody at Sutton United, and it will, it will make its way through. But yeah, email me, or my number knocks around, so people can sort of get hold of me whenever they like. But yeah, as I say, anything and everything can help, because it's not just the money. We need them publicized, we need people to push it and recommend it, and it's all of those bits where people can help, especially now going into a season that's sort of built around this Premier League Fans Fund initiative. So yeah, now's the time, I hope, for fans to come together and really make something of the season.
So even if they're just following on Twitter or any of the social media,
that's exactly it. Even if my daughter goes to this school and they would really benefit from this, or but we've had schools contact because they've got children that are behaving badly, or one contacted us because they had a sort of real horrible group that were using sort of racial slurs too much, and could we help? And just anything. If we can do it, we'll always do it. And I think that's the sort of message out there. There's no harm in asking, because the more people are talking about the foundation, the better it is for us when it comes to funding. Excellent.
And there's obviously other ways as well. So is there other ways that people can get involved and help without money, apart from if I wanted to physically come and do something, how could people get involved?
Well, we really need a secretary at the moment for our board of trustees, so I'll immediately email Bobby Childs to say Mike's up for it. But yeah, we need a secretary for a board of trustees. Also, the foundation days and the fan zone, and when we do the collection for the food groups, and this Fans Fund initiative is basically about bringing underrepresented groups to the ground. So even better that people that represent those underrepresented groups help us communicate, help us, help us understand what they need. And the biggest part is that everybody in the ground just appreciate each other and make it a comfortable experience, because we want the crowd to grow. We want the crowd to grow with lots of different people from lots of different walks of life, because the more people that come, breaking news, the more money comes in. And that's where people can really help. So if anybody's got any time free, then please let me know. I could probably do some help on a Friday morning if I'm completely honest. But even if it's on a match day, to oversee whatever we're doing in the fan zone, because it's just me, which means that if I've got to pop in to collect something for someone or help a mascot, or I'm just running, I reckon I do as many steps as some of the players on a Saturday, but they're just all in a dead straight line in and back out to the fan zone. So yeah,
and especially if you can drive, I think, as well.
Yeah, I do need someone that doesn't, unless you live on my road, then please get your own car.
So one of the things you mentioned earlier about underrepresented groups, obviously we've got a huge group of people from Hong Kong in Sutton. We're very, very popular, which we at work couldn't work out why we were getting so many people from Hong Kong registering. And we looked up, there's a video, and it really does make you appreciate all of a sudden of what we've got, because they were making such a big fuss about all the different supermarkets. And we're like, so what? We've got supermarkets, but it's like there's 5 supermarkets within walking distance and all these little things. So there's huge areas, and football is the second most popular sport in Hong Kong after horse racing. So all our
actually do a Hong Kong session on a Sunday at Aberdour. They're a fantastic group, to be fair. But so we did a football welcomes day. I think there were 90 people from the Hong Kong community that came. So they are great.
Things because and again, putting that mercenary hat on, a lot of them have got money.
Well, yeah,
They're coming to the UK because
yeah, that is true. A lot of them do have money, and it's about all of those sort of groups because the Muslim community, for example, is big. Because we've got the mosque at Morden, and it's a big community, but we don't tend to see many of them at the games, right? And what we're starting to identify through having conversations is a lot of the time that's because the parents, if you like, within the family aren't particularly big football fans, whether they've just not grown up with it or they just don't like it, which is crazy, but some people don't like it apparently. But their children and the younger generations are into football.
Yeah.
So what you end up with is the children that want to come, but their parents don't want to bring them. So my job moving forward is to do exactly that, is I've reached out to the mosque. We're in conversations with the mosque at the moment for me to do a weekly session, build the trust, then the children come, and there's lots of different things going on as to what we can do when they're there. But, it's anybody from a group. My job is to build the trust, to get them to the point where they feel like they're part of this magnificent and maybe slightly strange Sutton United family. And because I wholeheartedly believe that once they come and they experience it, they might not all, but loads of them are going to do what we all did, right? And fall in love with the place for its, and that it's about getting them to the point where they can come. So part of my job is making them feel comfortable at the game, which is why I mentioned earlier that it's really important that everybody remembers that that's what this club is about and everybody feeling included. I've had a sort of meeting with Claire and Sarah from her game too, Lucy Clark, the guy from the Fantastic Freddie Foundation, which is for sort of disabled people. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to sort of build a picture. Sorry, I'm just going to plug my laptop in because the funny thing come up. We're just trying to sort of get a real understanding of what these groups need and want and expect, and what the stumbling blocks are, and all of these sort of different bits. And people can really help with that, Mike, to be honest, because first of all, there's probably groups that I haven't even thought about. But the real task is, it's my job to build the trust, and then we'll bring them to the game, and hopefully they'll stay forever.
Yeah, come back, tell their friends. I mean, there could be some, not resentment, but some comments of people that obviously everyone's got their own favourite spot, but I don't care about that anymore since they took away my curver. So
I'll be honest, Mike, I knew about that a little bit before, and I
got a phone call. I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you.
Instant thought that was like, and there's some people that stand on the curve that I've known for such a long time, and my first thought was like, oh no, Mike's going to be gutted.
I got a phone call from someone checking. Oh, I've heard some bad news. Let me tell you. And I'm like, oh my god. Yeah. But yeah, somebody's changes. I mean, I'm wrapping up. I promise you. Literally on the way home today, I was walking through the park at the top of Sutton, and there were some kids playing football. And I just had a little look, and this is where some of the changes are from. I'm not saying that we've done this. This is just society in general. There were Asian kids playing football, which I never saw when I was young because their parents didn't want them to. More importantly, there were girls playing football, Asian girls playing football. And what was really odd is the teams were mismatched a little bit, and it was 3 girls versus 4 boys. And I'm sitting there going, hang on a minute, that's not how it usually is.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, Mike.
Yeah,
they're out there, and something is stopping them from coming. And I think a big part of it is that they're intimidated, and I think there are some stereotypes both ways into what they should expect, and and what's going to happen. Particularly, I was talking to somebody who will come out soon about this sort of generation of, let's say, between 16 and 21-year-old girls / young women, right, who saw England win the Euros, who have seen the explosion what is the WSL. There must be so many that are football fans. They might be football fans, their friends might not be, so then they don't come, you know, and they don't want to go to Chelsea by themselves because, you know, or Arsenal because it's spending big money. Whereas if we, by working with Sarah and with Claire and with all these different groups, there's no reason that we can't be that place. I want us to be that place where everybody goes, even if they live in, I don't know, North London, that they say like, well, I know where, you know, where they get it, and I know where I can be comfortable. And that's what we want from it. It's not just about growing revenue. It's about all those people, and there'll be so many, I think, that would love to go to the football, but just don't know whether it's the right place for them, don't want to come by themselves, don't know, you know, and it can be quite an intimidating place because if you haven't been for ages and you walk in and you haven't got an allocated seat, you don't know where you're supposed to stand, where you're supposed to go, you know, the ladies' toilet is tiny, you know, so you have to queue. The other one, the light doesn't work all the time.
You know, got urinals in it.
Yeah. You know, like it must be tough, and that is the whole, you know, that's not just for young women and girls, that's for a single mum. Let's say a single mum's got 3 boys, those 3 boys are desperate to come to the football. Well, you know, I had a single mum and I am one of 3 boys. My mum just wouldn't have taken us because we had run off and been, you know, Herbert somewhere, and she would have been left standing there. So it's about creating these little pockets of groups where everybody can support each other, and we just get as many people in to sessions and games and, you know, mascots and whatever we can to grow it, because the club and the foundation have basically got the exact same goal, which is get people to come to the ground. And we're in a really great spot. And, you know, Tim and Gary and Ben have been extremely helpful and, you know, have asked and have made an effort to ask me, what are we doing and how they can help? And I think and hope that we should be in for a really sort of good season, if not just using this season, so that next season, obviously, we're EFL, we're full.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to wrap it up. I was going to ask you a final message, but I think we've kind of covered it with a lot of the stuff we just discussed ad hoc there. I will, not an apology, but Harry has mentioned some names, and if anyone hasn't heard their name, I'm fairly certain he's just kind of run out of names to mention. So if you were kind of thinking, hey, he hasn't said my name, don't worry. I kept him on a limited time, so he can't do everyone.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap it up, and I did. Harry wasn't sure how much time we'd get out of this, but we've done pretty well, Harry. You've done really, really good.
Yeah, it's helped by the fact that I could talk about what the foundation does. I mean, you know, we could do a sort of limited series because there's just so much that goes on. But no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity, you know, to let people hear what we're doing and welcome. You know, show off a bit.
Yeah, people do genuinely love all this kind of stuff, and some of the things you mentioned, I don't want to say they're not supported, but sometimes it's just people don't know.
Yeah, people don't know.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. People don't know, and the only way people can ever know is if everybody starts to talk about it, to be honest.
So I've set up a nice little calendar with all the fixtures in, and I can put other things in that calendar, so make sure I know, and then I can chuck it in the calendar and people will know. People might start getting annoyed when I chuck all these things in.
But, I was just about to say that to you.
Hopefully they won't. Yeah. But we're going to wrap up this episode of Sutton Podcast. We appreciate your attention and feedback. Follow, like, share, and share this episode specifically at Sutton Podcast on social medias. Subscribe and all the rest of it. Give me the little thumbs up on YouTube. I love all them. We're going to be back. Well, I've got another ones planned, so I'm doing them with all kind of out of order. So we'll be back on Sunday, I should imagine. As always, thank you to Lucky Star Gin. Thank you to Harry for your time, and I'll let you get on with your studying. Thanks to the listeners. Hope you've enjoyed this episode and take care. We will catch up soon. Bye-bye.
United! 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 United!